Well, hey, there you are. Sonia here. Welcome to Sonia's Sermonettes. The promised land that was given to the Israelite children was by no means any easy journey for them ahead. Not only did they have difficulty even getting started to get out of the bondage that they were in, Pharaoh did not want to let them go. He would say they could go and then they couldn't go. It was a fiasco to begin with. Once they finally got the okay to leave, their journey had just begun. They were not aware of all the things that they were going to be encountered with out there in the wilderness, in a jungle. It was tangled up wilderness, uncharted land that they had never been on, headed toward the direction of a place that they had been promised, simply trying to go by faith and to obtain the promises of God. It was not easy for them by no means. They had difficulties even trusting the promise and the leader that they had been assigned to have them follow. God was with them, and God had given them a promise. Now today, can we relate with that message of the Israelite children and how they wandered out there for 40 years? They struggled. They were depressed. They complained. They were hungry. They were thirsty. And doubt began to creep in. And many of them tried to go back to the old ways and just forget about what was ahead for them, a promised land that they possibly did not believe could get there and accomplish. They began to go back into the old ways and made them an idol, a golden idol. Something that never worked to begin with. It didn't work before, and it certainly didn't work then. And as they journeyed on, Moses was giving them instructions. He was the one that had heard God tell him to lead those children out of bondage. And yet, it was no easy way to go for them. Now today, we have many things that we would like to accomplish and achieve in life. Many promises that we read about, we hear about. We hear people talk about the promises, how easy it might be to obtain, but no promise given by those children, to those children, was anything but easy. And the hardship became increased daily. They had been freed of one bondage, but yet they found themselves into another bondage. A bondage that did not want to let them go. They had to be free inside as well. Many times people cannot hardly overcome the things that they've been bound by. They can't see ahead. It's hard to see the promise that might be. And yet you look around and you see the surroundings and nothing has changed. And as they journeyed on, many realized they should have just stayed back into bondage. That's what they thought. There were a few that believed they could obtain the promised land. Now, mind you, the few that got to go in, their battle had just begun. Can you believe that? Here they were in the promised land, inside. And what was ahead of them was giants. They had to fight giants out there to get into the promised land. And many may say, well, why did God not make it easier for them? Well, God gave them a promise, and all they had to do was fulfill and get there, and also fight the giants and the enemies. Now today, what is the giants and the enemies in our life? You want to know some of the things that may be hindering you by not being able to obtain your promise? We have enemies as well. We have giants. We have mountains that we're facing, obstructions, discouragement, hindrances, barriers, walls, and most of all, a lot of negative input. People that do not even believe you could obtain such a promise that's been given to you. And they give you negative points of what the possibilities of how you cannot obtain it. Why do these people do this? Some, I believe, are jealous because they've never followed through for their promise. And it's hard for them to stand back and watch you be blessed, isn't it? Because they knew they stuck their feet in the mud and they didn't carry on. They just stayed out there like some of them did and complained and whined and complained about how hard it was to get through the wilderness. We have a wilderness ahead of us in obtaining the promises. That wilderness is in our mind, and the things that we allow people to tell us or condition ourselves in. We have to overcome ourselves, overcome the giants that we think, oh, that would be impossible. We can't do that. There's no way that could ever happen. You know how the carnal mind works. It is working against God and the promises of God. You are not going to get that done. Oh, yes, I am. It is my promise. It is your promise. And we can obtain. There will be battles. There will be things that we must overcome. There will be obstacles. There will be times that we feel as if we're completely alone in this. Even those close to us, our friends, our loved ones, they can't even understand what are we trying to do, what we are trying to accomplish. What we're trying and are going to do is achieve and accomplish our promises to obtain the promised land that God's given us. The pressure is great, but you know what pressure can do? It can push you right on through. Yeah, the times are hard. The pressure's bad. It's on everywhere you look. Keep your eyes and your focus on your promised land that has been given to you, that you can and you will be able to achieve and accomplish. And so, until next time.